So we have an enemy that self-identifies, uses social media, video, audio, TV, self-identifies as Islamic. It's in its name. And the President of the United States keeps dumbing it down. The President of the United States keeps twisting it and turning it. It's an amazing thing. So today he smears Christianity. Today he slanders Christianity. Today he smears and slanders the Prime Minister of a Jewish state, the only Jewish state, Israel, and is extremely defensive of the Iranian Islamo-Nazi regime, which, as I speak, is slaughtering people, raping them in their torture chambers, throwing gays off buildings. Oh, well, so be it. They're not real, They're the Muslims over there. They're misusing Islam. So why are we negotiating with these people? Headline, Washington Free Beacon. Iran, the Americans are begging us for a deal. A top Iranian military leader claims the U.S. officials have been begging us to sign a nuclear deal during closed-door negotiations with Tehran. Now, this guy is, he's a piece of excrement, but I believe him. This is par for the course. This is a pattern. Mohammad Reza Najhidi, the commander of the... whatever. Americans are begging us for a deal on the negotiation table. And I don't doubt it for a minute. Let me tell you something. Congress may not impeach this president. Check that. Congress will not impeach this president. As far as I'm concerned, he's not my president. That's right, I said it. I owe him nothing. I'm not going to participate in this cult. I am firing him in my own life, Mr. Producer. He's not my president. Whoa, you're so disrespectful. Disrespectful? The man who defies the rule of law and the Constitution? The man who so cavalierly talks about genocide? The man who trashes Christianity? Let me be clear about something. Some of you listening, not most of you, some of you listening may be a little confused about this. While it is absolutely 100% true that the framers of the Constitution and the ratifiers did not want a theocracy, because they were smart. Because obviously, even within Christianity, there are denominations and differences and nuances and so forth and so on. Fine. And so we have our First Amendment, religious liberty, among other things. But let there be no mistake. Let there be no mistake at all, to those of you who are listening to me. The influence of Christianity on the framers of the Constitution is unequivocal and undeniable. I said it's unequivocal and undeniable, and thank God. It's one of the reasons we have such a tolerant society. Oh yes, it is. It's one of the reasons we have such a tolerant society. Because the framers embraced their faith, and they embraced the Enlightenment. And that's not contradictory. It doesn't conflict. You can be a believer in faith, God, in the New Testament, in the Old Testament, and have reason, and be enlightened, and all those things. And most people are. This is very, very important to understand. And I have it in my book, Liberty and Tyranny, of, 6 years ago now? The founding of this nation. These men weren't atheists. These men weren't purely about commerce and trade. I love it today where, these people with these social issues. I can't have the social issues. My God, these people, we can't win elections without these people. We can't keep our country without these people, for crying out loud. You don't divide civil society and conservatism into little pieces like it's a pizza. It's a way of life. One interconnects with the other. They're intertwined. They're intertwined. In fact, Chapter 3 of Liberty and Tyranny, which I haven't read in a long time, as you work on new books, the title is On Faith and the Founding. And it starts out like this. Reason cannot by itself explain why there is reason. Science cannot by itself explain why there is science. Man's discovery and application of science are products of reason. Reason and science can explain the existence of matter, but they cannot explain why there is matter. They can explain the existence of the universe, but they cannot explain why there is a universe. They can explain the existence of nature and the law of physics, but they cannot explain why there is nature and the law of physics. They can explain the existence of life, but they cannot explain why there is life. They can explain the existence of consciousness, but they cannot explain why there is consciousness. Science is a critical aspect of human existence, but it cannot address the spiritual nature of man. In this respect, science is a dead end around which the atheist refuses to reason. I'm not trashing them, I'm just debating them. Reason itself informs man of its own limitations, and in doing so, directs him to the discovery of a force greater than himself. A supernatural force responsible for the origins of not only human existence but all existence, and which itself has always existed and will always exist. And for most, the supernatural reveals itself in the Creator, God. Man seeks God's guidance through faith and prayer. The agnostic accepts the supernatural but is not so sure of the form or of its existence. The deist accepts that God created the universe and man's condition, but left it to man to sort things out through reason. Man is more than a physical creature. As Edmund Burke argued, each individual is created as unique, spiritual, a being with a soul and a conscience, and is bound to a transcendent moral order established by divine providence and uncovered through observation and experience over the ages. He wrote this, quote, "There is but one law for all, namely the law which governs all law. The law of our Creator, the law of humanity, justice, equity, the law of nature and of nations." Unquote. This is the natural law that penetrates man's being, being, and which the Founding Fathers adopted as the principle around which civilized American society would be organized. The Declaration of Independence appeals to the laws of nature and nature's God. You won't hear Obama say this either. It provides further, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." You see, I'm not going through this just to pat myself on the back. That has nothing to do with it. I'm going through this to explain the fusion between reason and faith. The founders were enlightened men, but not men purely of the age of enlightenment. They were highly educated, well-informed men who excelled at reason and subscribed to science, but worshipped neither. They comprehended them, their strengths as well as weaknesses. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were Congregationalists, Presbyterian, Anglican, Unitarian, and Roman Catholic. At least two founders, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, are widely believed to have been deists. They were men of varying denominations, but united and emphatic in the belief that the Creator was the origin of their existence and the source of their reason. Now, I want to make a point, and this is on page 26 of Liberty and Tyranny. Is it possible that there is no natural law and man can know moral order and unalienable rights from his own reasoning, unaided by the supernatural or God? There are, of course, those who argue this case, including the atheists and others who attempt to distinguish natural law from divine providence. It is not the view adopted by the founders, however. This position would, it seems, lead man to arbitrarily create his own morality and rights, or create his own arbitrary morality and rights. Right and wrong, just and unjust, good and bad, would be relative concepts susceptible to circumstantial applications. And this is what we have in Barack Obama, in my opinion. Moreover, by what justification would life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness be unalienable rights if there is no natural law, since reason alone cannot make them inviolable? What then is natural law if its origin is unknown or rejected? Well, it's nothing more than a human construct. An individual may benefit from the moral order and unalienable rights around which society functions while rejecting their divine origin, but the civil society cannot organize itself that way. In other words, people are free to have their independent beliefs, of course. They can reject natural law. They can reject divine providence. They can reject what the founders said in the Declaration of Independence. They're free to live their lives as they wish. But the fact is, the founders rejected that view. That is, rejected the view that reason alone can provide a moral order, because it can't. And so the organization of a civil society cannot work that way, because it would become unstable, vulnerable to anarchy and tyranny, imperiling all within it, especially the individual. The abandonment of natural laws, the adoption of tyranny in one form or another, because there is no humane or benevolent alternative to natural law. When Obama says, oh, we think we possess all the truth. Yes, we think we possess the truth. But we don't go around the world slaughtering, raping, maiming, and torturing to impose our will on other people unless they threaten us. And we even take them on if they don't threaten us. But they threaten other people in such an immoral and inhumane way, we feel we need to act. Finally, I said, well, I didn't finally say it, just more final point. Some resist the idea of natural law's relationship to divine providence, for they fear it leads to intolerance or even theocracy. They have it backwards. If man is endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, he is endowed with these rights no matter his religion or whether he has allegiance to any religion. It is natural law divined by God and discoverable by reason that prescribes the inalienability of the most fundamental and eternal human rights. Rights that are not conferred on man by man and therefore cannot legitimately be denied to man by man. It is the divine nature of natural law that makes permanent man's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In the very last sentence of the Declaration, the founders proclaimed, quote, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor."